Live, guys. But up, everyone. Welcome to Everything Teams Phone Live. You have got a crew on today that is excited to share with you so much information, and we have the man to do it on our show today, Mr. Tom Arbuthnot. Tom, welcome to the show.
Yeah, hey guys, thanks for having me.
Very good, very good. As always, we've got Brandon Bradley, our trusty CTO here at G12 Communications, hanging with us and chatting live today. All right. Well, we have a really cool show. I didn't put any description in the show today because I wanted everyone to be kind of like, what are they sharing? Well, there's tons that we're sharing. We're going to talk about all the updates, all the Enterprise Connect updates that are going on. Tom, what's been going on with you? We're going to also talk about Empowering.Cloud. You're going to show us what Empowering.Cloud is all about and why it's so important to the community, because I think it's awful important to the community. In fact, the first thing that I looked at when I first sort of joined the community was I stumbled upon Empowering.Cloud and I thought, wow, this is fantastic. I can just sit here all day and all night and figure out, what I need to learn about Microsoft Teams. And it certainly did help get me caught up to speed. So that's exciting. Okay. Well, welcome to the show, guys.
Where do we want to begin?
Yeah. Brandon, where do we begin, Brandon? I know you've got a little thing you do every day, every time we do this.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably more appropriate with Tom on when I greet everyone good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Obviously, evening for you, Tom. So
yeah, it's 8 o'clock here, so we're well and truly finished for the day. But it's nice I can chill out now and have a chat, which is good.
Yeah. What do you do on a Friday night at 8 p.m. When you're on a podcast, Tom?
Well, I've got two kids. I got a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old, so it's bath time and bedtime around about now. So I'm just hiding myself away from them.
Very good, very good. Well, let's kick things off.
I've got the wine going there because it's Friday night, so we're all good.
That's exactly what I was angling for. I knew that was about to come out. I knew that was going to happen.
And Garcia, you forgot to send me a bottle so I could join Tom for a little happy hour. But
I did.
I'll forgive you later.
I did not send you a bottle this time.
Well, we'll all be on the same time zone in a few weeks, won't we, with Comms VNext? So we'll be able to have a drink then.
That's right. Exactly right. That's exactly right. Well, let's talk about that. Comms VNext. Tom, Empowering.Cloud. Are you speaking at the show this year?
Yeah. I'll be speaking. I'm doing a deep dive on Teams Phone Mobile, which is really exciting. I'm fingers crossed I'll have some demos. In fact, I was just messing about. I've got a new eSIM mobile, so I was messing about and testing things. So we should have some live Teams Phone Mobile demos, which will be good.
For the audience, when we were in London, I don't know, 3 weeks ago or so, or maybe a month ago now, we were sitting in London and we did this, and we saw for the first time this Teams Phone Mobile demo, and really sort of understood what it meant, and you could start to see how this applies to everyday business. You can start to see how it applies to organizations, because I mean, every one of us serves organizations in some way, shape, or form, right? Businesses out in the field, and if you're an enterprise business, if you've got not first responders, but if you've got kind of that first line group of people out there, it's so intriguing because it's really going to change the face of how organizations communicate.
Yeah, definitely. I think Dan from Pinko did a demo with the version 02 guys. So showed it all live in action and did his typical thing of doing like a live provision during the show, which was pretty cool. We're still waiting in the UK officially. So we've got BTEE and O2 Virgin getting close to launch here. Other markets have got it. I think it's Verizon in the US. So we'll see how it rolls out. But yeah, it's interesting times.
So Tom, I know there's a few different ways to deploy the Teams mobile. Are you deployed via the Operator Connect methodology, or are you still kind of coming over the top with kind of the direct routing integration?
Yeah, that's the one I'm going to be talking about. The Operator Connect. What was Operator Connect Mobile is now Teams Phone Mobile. So the back end operators are integrated into Microsoft's infrastructure, and it becomes one number. Your cell number is your Teams phone, and your your mobile native dialer. The terminology here is really, really tricky if you're not in the industry to explain it to normal people. You're like native. No normal person knows what a native mobile dialer is, but we've got to work out our language. I mean, that's your speciality, Rick, is trying to decode all this stuff. But this is one of the ones where you're like, it can be a soft phone. It's like, what's a soft phone? Well, it can be your fixed line. Well, it's not fixed, is it?
Yeah.
That's exactly what we're here to do. It is to decipher what the technology means to everyday businesses out there. You know, we do this every day at G12 where we're delivering service to organizations. And I can tell you that I feel like I live in like two dimensions, right? I feel like I live in a dimension where we're often in this crazy, amazing, you know, sophisticated communications world. And then I come to the business world where we deliver services, and we're still bringing organizations along, and it's still, you know, a little bit back here, right?
Yeah,
and so,
totally. You forget where the market, especially when you live in this world and you tend to work with more progressive customers as well. So even the customers you're working with, by definition, are probably a bit ahead of where the market is. I mean, we're still talking 80% on-prem classic PBX stuff, you know. So there's a long way to go. Although it feels like it's like a rocket at the moment. We're only kind of, you know, officially 15 million. Obviously, we saw at Enterprise Connect another 5 million in the last 12 months. So we're probably approaching 20 million Teams phone seats, which is a small fraction, tiny fraction of Teams, let alone the market. There's still lots of interesting opportunity out there.
Yeah. So what, 400 million? Sorry, Brandon, I mean to cut you off. Like 400 million users, I think, is the 400 million seats, I think, is the voice opportunity out there. And we're sitting at 20 million on Teams, or coming up to 20 million on Teams, right? So it's a pretty significant market. And then the actual consumption of it is still pretty minuscule compared to the size of the market.
Yeah, and I was going to go back to the comment you made, Tom, about kind of even our customers maybe being a little more on the progressive, side and making that decision to transition to specifically Teams phone system. And I think and Rick, hopefully you agree with me. I think what we're seeing, when we have our conversations with potential customers or even existing customers, is I think in their mind they've decided they want to go Teams phone, but their biggest question is, how do we get there, and how do we get that user adoption? And we've had some good conversations around it. And I think, later in this show, we're maybe going to make a plug at what G12 can do to kind of bridge that gap between that on-prem and that native, Teams phone.
And that's exactly what we come up against every day, right? It's the on-prem heavy facilities, heavy organization. Take a hospital, because we tend to serve a little larger customers, right? So take a hospital as an example. They've got pretty significant facilities in there, and so I mean, in their mind, you look at how can they go to Teams phone, and it blows their mind with what they have to go rip and replace, as an example. And so a gradual migration or a kind of a two-step migration, where you look at direct routing as an example for some pieces of it, operator connect, for other pieces of it, and then bridging the gap between those components and their physical stuff that they still want to eke out value out of if they can. Right.
Yeah, totally. And there's probably still totally valid use cases for it as well. If it's doing what it's supposed to do and it's a phone that sits there, like the hospital scenario, you've got two interesting ones there. They have a whole lot of just common area devices where it's a piece of plastic that does what it does and it's fine. Also with hospitals, you've got obviously resiliency to consider. So then a PBX that runs locally might well be the solution for some of those departments as well.
Yeah. Let's do this. I want to do the intro right. I feel like, Tom, I wanted to do like a superstar, rock star introduction for you, Tom. And I wanted to share some of the amazing stats and just really kind of how instrumental you are in the Microsoft Teams ecosystem. And this is what I thought I'd throw up there. So this is a bit probably embarrassing for you, but I'm going to share it anyway. There's Tom is 35,000 LinkedIn followers. Actually, it's like 36 because I looked the other day, actually. Twitter, and he does talks all over the world. He does the Tom Talks blog and keeps up to date, keeps everyone up to date with the latest and Microsoft updates. There's monthly podcasts that he does. Obviously, I saw the EC update with UC Today. The Teams Fireside Chats, a monthly discussion with 300 now. I think the last one was 300, maybe over 300.
Yeah,
people.
we got Ilya this month on I think it's the 19th or the 20th as well. So that'll be a hot one because he's always happy to share an opinion.
Oh, it's going to be a big one. I just got the invite a couple of days ago. You are the rock star in the industry, really, that keeps everyone sort of up to date in an amazingly social way. But that's not the only thing you do. You have this platform that you've co-founded, this Empowering.Cloud that you've co-founded, and I thought I'd let you talk about what Empowering.Cloud does, and how it takes part in the Microsoft ecosystem, because we do have online right now, we have sales agents, we have Microsoft partners on, we have Microsoft employees on, and it's a great place to gather the latest information on what this space is doing, because Microsoft Teams is it's the talk of the town, essentially, from a communications perspective. So I thought I'd give you an opportunity to let's hear about Empowering.Cloud.
Thanks. Yeah. So the idea, so obviously I've done this social stuff, kind of sharing the email list, the blog, for years and years and years, and it was a side gig around consulting. So I would do consulting mostly for enterprise customers during the day, and then the blog would be kind of a side project, evenings, weekends, like Sunday night with a glass of wine, get the blogs done. But what I noticed in my last kind of few years of consulting was I was having similar conversations. So with Skype for Business and Link and OCS, because you ran the servers, the topologies were very different. The how you set it up was quite different each time. But with cloud, a lot of the conversations are similar. You're all buying into this giant SaaS service. So it's, how's it changing? How's the best way to deploy it? How's the ecosystem work? How do the carriers work? How do the recording work? So I thought there must be a better way to scale this knowledge out there. And obviously it's great, the enterprises can afford to pay consultants to have the conversations, but how do we kind of democratize that information? So that was the thinking going in. And then another part of it was just, I have so many great conversations with Microsoft, with the vendors, with the customers. I was like, well, how do we get this information out there again? So a bit of back and forth on that, but the idea was to build a community platform. So Tom Morgan, a fellow MVP, who's also in our space, more on the dev side, he's built the platform on Azure. And the idea is basically we bring people together, got 16, maybe 17 subject matter experts who've done briefings. So short, sharp briefings from the community for the community, all free to access. And we're fortunate to have a number of really good sponsors who kind of back us, which means we can actually spend the time making sure the content's up to date, right, and kept fresh. So that's the concept. And then we have a premium tier for partners and for enterprises who want a bit more information, research, gamification, learning paths, other bits and pieces. So kind of two-tier system. The idea is, the thing with community is often it's a hobby project and it burns out because people don't have a model. So the idea was to build a sustainable model where we can just keep adding value, building content, keeping it up to date.
Well, I can tell you, like I said, when I first joined the community, it was a really great spot, a great spot for me to land, just to kind of absorb the things that I didn't even know I was looking for. I mean, and the things that you learn. I mean, I'd love it if you did if you don't mind, could you do a little tour of Empowering.Cloud?
Yeah, sure. Let me share.
It's because I think it's that important, because I did this, this lead up to today where I'm like, some you need Empowering.Cloud at your fingertips. You really do. So if you're an organization that, like I said in my little intro, is like, if you're an organization that's looking to go to Microsoft Teams, if you're an organization that has Microsoft Teams voice, if you're an organization that it's just on your roadmap, Empowering.Cloud is important for you to be a part of. And the reason is, I'll give you just a quick example. We have a university that's a prospect for us today. And we sent a note over to him saying, did you know this? And it was just a quick little blurb on the 911 stuff, which you've got a great, 15-minute recap on the 911 stuff. And we sent a note over to them, and they were like, and they're like, oh no, we didn't know this, and oh, by the way, we're not compliant. And so I thought I think this is great to have this solid information that's backed by a subject matter expert and say, here's what you need to work with us, sort of thing.
Yeah, so this was the idea. And interestingly, we went around various kind of platforms and learning management systems and things to try and, because the original idea wasn't to build something really, it was just to provide the content, but we couldn't find anything that did quite the combination of things we wanted to do around how we wanted to integrate to Teams with the Teams app, how we wanted to handle like free and paid content, and how we wanted to deal with all the authors. So we ended up building, say, full credit to Tom Morgan for all the platform stuff. But you can log in with either your LinkedIn login or you can create an account. That's backed off Auth0 from a security standpoint. And then we have a whole bunch of authors, so there'll be faces probably people recognize here, who are kindly contributing this content. So it's all free to access. They get to share their expertise with the field and get a bit of kind of recognition as well, which is great for them. And we pull this all together, and Lindsay, who's the community manager, does all the hard work in pulling it together. But as you said, one of the interesting things is there's not many places you can go for kind of individual experts and also for ecosystem. So Microsoft will do a good job with Learn for like the core Teams technology potentially, but they don't touch ecosystem. They'll say, every partner's equal, go talk to the partners. The partners will say, well, we work with X carrier or Y carrier, or we work with ABC contact center, or we work with XYZ recording vendor. But there's not many places you can go to get a complete overview. So that's our objective. Not to kind of say one vendor's better than another, just to say, here are your options, here's how to make a decision, and here's some real world experience, not just from me, but again, all these different authors. So we get varied opinion about what, kind of the right thing to do. Because I don't want to just make it the Tom show. That's not the point. The point is to help the community, basically.
Well, and that was exactly what I pulled from a post, I think it was yesterday, about the contact centers. Here are the connected contact centers and the two different types of engagement for the contact centers. And it was a really unbiased, discussion on what Microsoft offers, what Microsoft doesn't offer, what gaps there are, and what, I could learn, from deploying a contact center that can address some of those gaps.
Yeah, that's it. And again, thanks to all the sponsors, obviously you guys included here. Thank you very much for the support. So we have a range of sponsors that back this, and everybody who backs it signs an agreement saying they're not influencing content. That's not the point. The point is to educate the market. And I'm fortunate we had a couple of sponsors who have wanted to influence content, and that's not what we're doing. So it wasn't a fit. But everybody that is backing us is like, no, we just want airtime, we just want a chance. Because very often in our market, educating customers is half the battle. We talked about we're still early. A lot of customers don't even know half the things they can do with Teams Phone, and half the things they can do around compliant recording and contact center and devices and Teams Rooms. So there's a massive job to do to keep them up to date, and that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I think I'm looking for the contract, Tom, because I want to say I redline that portion out, and I'm not quite sure if I got...
Let's see.
And Tom drops. Tom is out.
Lindsay's just fixing the logos now.
That's awesome. Well, that's like I said, Empowering.Cloud is such an important piece of the community. So if you're an organization out there that has employees, as an example, that need to be trained on Microsoft Teams and want to learn, jump onto the learning tracks for Microsoft Teams because you're deploying or thinking about deploying, this is a great spot to pull together the information that they need to become productive management individuals in the organization.
Yeah, and we're always looking for feedback, so we're like asking for what people want briefings on, what do they need more of, and we have a messenger on there, so you can come back and forth with us on ideas and feedback as well. So it's very much a kind of living evergreen library. So anybody who's got ideas or suggestions, or there might be some people listening who think they can contribute a briefing, we'd love that. We want people who've done stuff for real, who've got opinions. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah, excellent. Well, that leads us into the exciting piece. So Enterprise Connect, and again, for our listeners out there, Enterprise Connect is the premier show for communications, kind of new communications, or the different products and services that are out there, and for organizations to attend, to learn what the latest trends are. And Tom, you were quite involved in Enterprise Connect and all the Microsoft updates, and you've got a good consolidation slide here for us to walk through some of the big things. Some of these things we're going to stick on these just a little bit. In fact, there's a couple of slides for some of the things that we find that are maybe not as exciting, but in real world for us, that comes up, on a daily basis. So we look at some of these updates and we're like, oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Like there's so much going on with Teams that sometimes tiny changes can affect literally, millions of users still. So it can be little niche features that really unblock people.
Yeah. So let's talk about this. I mean, the big announcement, Copilot, the AI demo. Wow, how cool is that? Basically having a generative AI sitting right in your Teams tenant, capturing information, creating information. What's that going to look like?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Obviously, Microsoft have put a lot of money into OpenAI, so they kind of have a jump on that technology. I mean, all the vendors will have access to some kind of, large learning models, ChatGPT type models, and pretty much every vendor announced it. The big difference with Microsoft is because of the nature of Teams and Microsoft 365, they've got so much information about what's going on. So what they demoed on the stage was someone joining a meeting midway through, and you could query the Copilot bot, essentially say what's been discussed so far, what were the main points, what's the tone and the sentiment of the meeting. So jumping in late was pretty cool. But you could even go a step further and say you wanted to follow a meeting without attending. So, you've got your traditional Outlook attend, tentative, which just means no, and decline. You could have another button that says follow, and the AI will give you a summary of the meeting. But again, not just a summary. It's like it can mine the transcript. So if you said, oh, well, what did Sarah think about that after the meeting? It will go through the transcript and pull that out for you. And this is really just the beginning. I mean, those are relatively constrained use cases, but Microsoft has shown demos of, things like Viva Sales live coaching people during Teams calls, or you being able to say, hey, I'm about to meet with Rick from G12. What's the key points from our last 3 conversations? And that might span email, Teams chat, and meetings. And the AI can see all of those because they're all in Microsoft 365. So the power of this is really exciting.
That is, is it just about productivity? I mean, Brandon, what do you think? Is this all productivity? Is that it's like getting as much out of an individual? Is that helping them kind of deliver more productivity for the organization? What do you see this as?
I think it's for sure productivity, but I've interacted many times with OpenAI for whether it's hobby things that I'm working on or even G12 things that I'm working on. And the one thing that really stands out to me about OpenAI is how conversational it is. It's not just a data dump. You would almost not even know that it's not a human sitting behind the output. How conversational it is, and how from a intuitive perspective, when I'm reading it, how sometimes traditionally you'd go out and you'd Google search something, and you'll go through a treasure trove of articles, and you're trying to pick apart bits and pieces, and it's just you're having a harder time bringing it together in your mind for it to make sense. Whereas with AI, what I've noticed is it brings it into a conversation format, or at least a data flow format, that it's almost like the expert is explaining in detail, step by step, whatever that might be, whether it's a technical document or to what Tom was just talking about. I think it brings intuitive conversation that's AI generative, and I think that just adds to the productivity piece, where I don't need to spend as much time trying to understand the data that I'm looking at.
Mm.
All right. There's a lot of bullets here, so I want to power through some of these things, because some of these things, and if you're listening out there, I want you to listen to these things and take a look at them. I want to understand how these will impact your business that you live in, or your practice, or how some of these things are going to impact you. Because I look at this next one, this new Teams client public preview. This new Teams client, Brandon, you just installed it recently. Tom, you're probably on it. And having a much faster, cleaner, sort of less, not as heavy as an application on your PC, I think is going to be just, again, from a productivity perspective. If you're shaving, in the call center world, as an example, you're shaving off seconds, right? If you can shave off seconds off of a call, if you can shave, this is just massive productivity gain in every way. So the new Teams client, are you guys both on preview today?
Yep. Yeah. We've been running it for a little while, and as you say, it's lighter, faster. So Teams, as you know, that Teams client was built in a very kind of agile way with a framework called Electron, which is not the most optimal way to build, but is fast basically. And this new client is built with 5-6 years understanding of what Teams is now. So built from the ground up. Launches faster, joins meetings faster. For things like education, it's really critical because they tend to run super light machine spec wise. So, you're down to those like i3s and 4 gigs of RAM, which Teams had a real hard time with, to be honest. So that's exciting. But also, it deals with cross-tenant really well. So if you're in, again, more that enterprise setting where you're running multiple customers concurrently, it will switch a lot more like the mobile client. So you can have seamless notifications between tenants, which is a nice bit.
Yeah, I was going to say two things were instantly noticeable for me. One was, I run a beastie machine for work, lots of like the best specs you can get. And even then it was, it's night and day different, the performance of Teams. And then second, I spend a lot of time bouncing between our demo environment, sandbox environment, and obviously our commercial, our company tenant. And the time that takes to sign out, sign in, figure out how you're going to screen share, maybe it's a second computer sitting next to you. That productivity gain right there is worth its weight in gold with that feature.
Yeah. And later on in this discussion, we're going to hit lightly on the Forrester review, and it's all about saving time and what that productivity means and the value of, calculating the time saved over a certain period of time and then putting a dollar amount associated with it so that you can see what actually this translates to from a dollars and cents perspective for an organization. So that's going to be pretty interesting. What's the next one we want to tackle? Microsoft Teams bring your own device spaces.
Yeah, this is cool. This is quite a change for Microsoft because Microsoft were obviously pushing very hard on Microsoft Teams rooms. Kind of like a Teams room in every space was kind of the thing. And talking about these, 80% of rooms aren't video enabled. I think Microsoft are reacting to the market a little bit here, which is of those 80% of rooms that aren't video enabled, not every one of them is going to be a Teams room. So some customers want an option of running in with a laptop, plugging in the laptop and having the meeting. So this is Teams BYOD, where you have a dongle type device. So the first one is Crestron Air Media. So think about a dongle that you plug into your PC. That streams wirelessly to your meeting room screen. And what you get here is an optimized experience. So it's not just throwing your Outlook and your desktop up onto the screen like you typically see in BYOD. The Teams client knows it's in a BYOD meeting, so it only projects an optimized meeting layout for that scenario, pulls through the audio and video device, no drivers, no EXEs, nothing to run, just click and go. Pretty exciting because this will bring the Teams meeting experience down to well below a sub-$1,000 price point. So you start to access a whole load of different rooms or different types of customers as well.
You just answered my question. It was going to be, what does that cost, right? Because again, everyone looks at, I've got 30 meeting rooms in my organization, and what does it cost to outfit, a room? And it can get quite expensive. But now with this, the Crestron device and this BYOD, it seems like it'd be pretty light and simple.
Yeah, and part of Teams' benefit is to the customer is there's an ecosystem. So there'll be a whole bunch of OEM vendors. Crestron are the first, but there'll be others. So there'll be innovation, there'll be price competition. So I think that pricing will get very aggressive in that scenario. It wouldn't shock me if we're getting down to the $500, $600 mark potentially. Barco, good question, Joseph. So Barco is a very similar technology. It's that kind of experience. So it'd be interesting to see what happens with Barco and others, whether they adopt this kind of experience or whether they have a variant that supports Teams. The difference with Barco is when you plug it in, you have to run an EXE to get that thing going. So we were just talking about off show, the being in a carrier, you have your laptop Uber locked down, so you can't always run an EXE to run something, but you've got the Teams client. But yeah, you're thinking along the right tracks with that kind of Barco like experience, but optimized for Teams basically.
Yeah, that's it.
I could see this feature. I've come from some really, really big companies in my past lifetime where even like the executive levels, they want their own, they got their offices, and I've seen it where they've got their own room set up in their office where it's, that's really expensive. So I could see companies looking at that to cut costs on even the executive level where it's, you don't need all of this anymore. Here's your device to plug in and there you go.
Yeah, definitely. And also it's just that single experience thing where people, They don't know where they're going to be. They know they're going to have the meeting. They run in, like you say, the execs with the corner office in the screen, they're already having the meeting. They just want to make it go on the screen. They don't necessarily want to rejoin on the room, potentially.
Yeah. What's next there, Brandon?
I got to look at I'm on a different laptop for my
Surface,
viewers.
Here we go. Surface
I got to
Hub
look at Surface Hub.
2S. I don't even know what this one is, Tom. This is where I need to go to Empowering.Cloud and get caught up to
You
speed here.
do. You need to watch the update. This is Surface Hub, which is Microsoft's kind of collaboration board type experience. So think 55-inch, 84-inch, high DPI whiteboarding type experience. Microsoft are now bringing that together with Microsoft Teams, so it will run a Microsoft Teams rooms on Windows. So in every respect, it'll be like a Microsoft Teams room. Today, it's a bit of a fork. It does some of the Teams things, but not all of them. But again, I think this is just momentum in Teams that most Surface Hubs are used for Teams meetings. So Microsoft want to really optimize that experience.
All right. Android devices now. Android devices. That seems like that's going to be pretty popular for organizations that have. I mean, if you're walking in, what's the end? How does the Android device? How's that going to work for us, Tom?
Yeah, so there's two things here. So the top two bullets of the middle column. First one is Microsoft are going to build their own Android OS. So previously, if you bought a Teams rooms on Android device, the OEM would build the OS. So your Logis, your Polys, your Neats, your Links, they all roll their own operating system. And some customers would prefer if Microsoft took control of that from a security and feature standpoint. So Microsoft are now going to roll their own OS, give it to the OEMs optionally to use. Jabra will be the first ones using it. And it just makes everything a little bit slicker because it means Microsoft are responsible for the operating system and the Teams app in that Android world. And the second one might well be interesting to some of your customers. This is the ability to run an Android mobile device. So you think like I've got the Pixel here, but it could also be a hardened Android device, like you kind of use SpectraLink type things where you can throw them at the floor and they bounce and everything's good. You can run those with a shared device license, which is an $8 a month license as a common area phone. So think stockroom, think manufacturing, think kind of anywhere where you might traditionally use DeX phones or walkie-talkies. You could now use a Teams client as both a VoIP walkie-talkie and as a phone with a phone number, and at a really aggressive price point as well.
That's pretty exciting. And I hadn't put that sort of in my process for selling to organizations, but that's a pretty cool feature. The common areas, because we see that all the time, right? In organizations that still keep some devices on and have just distributed, sort of not a distributed organization, but not a facility either, or even a facility, but more of a campus environment, right? Where they're that seems like that's going to be a really good fit for that. This next one, Tom, it seems really, really basic, but it's really, really important. I get asked this almost every deployment that has a facility. It's the Teams bat phone hotlines.
Yeah, we used to do this all the time, right? With SIP phones. This is just you can program a phone to off hook and direct dial a number. So security phone or a reception phone, like delivery drivers, just pick it up and they're through to the right person. I haven't been able to do that with Teams Phone yet. So this is coming in the standard Teams IP phone. Program it up, off hook. It will auto dial whatever number you provision to it.
I'm sure it was my upvote for this particular feature that got us there.
I heard you got pull Rick, so maybe.
Yeah. Very good. Teams displays QR code sign in and virtual front desk. This is so cool. I saw the virtual front desk demo at work. What did you think about it in person? Because again, I wasn't there, but that seemed like it was a pretty cool display.
Yeah, these are cool. So this is beginning of seeing like the Teams displays. I've got the neat frame behind me as an example. So dedicated kind of video collaboration units. Microsoft are looking at new use cases for them. So the first one is QR code signing. So they're in a hot desk scenario. You can rock up to it, use the QR code. So bring your camera up on your mobile and auto sign in through the Teams app. So if you've seen, services like Netflix and Hulu do that kind of QR code sign in, think that, but for your desk for the day, for the hot desk. And then the virtual front desk or virtual receptionist is the idea of plonking one of those units at a reception area and then a remote reception person, either remote because of security or remote because they're covering multiple sites or out of hours. One button to click pings up a video call and they can have a conversation.
Man, how cool is that? That's just that's pretty awesome. Click to call from the browser.
Yeah, this is pushing out there now in terms of, we talked about the businesses. So, if you look at web chat as an example now, pretty much every website has web chat, right? Like, it super frustrates me if a website doesn't have web chat. I'm like, I don't want to, I just want to answer a quick question, but like being able to click to call from websites and click to call with video is still relatively early days. There are some that do it. There's a retailer in the UK that does it, and they do product tours and stuff. But what this is doing is taking Microsoft's investment in the underlying infrastructure of Teams, which is called Azure Communication Services, giving end customers a little plugin to put into their website, and they're able to click and do a voice or video call, or even a sharing, and it's website on the front end, so your customer-facing website, and then Teams on the back end, which I'm really excited for in two things. One, it gives people a super accessible way to do it, but also it will kind of jumpstart the market, because a lot of businesses don't even realize that's quite possible today. And then we can do all sorts of clever things, like say, like this retailer in the UK does. You're on a website looking at a particular product, you can ring through to them on video, and they have a giant warehouse experience where they can pick the product up and be like you're in a virtual showroom, and be like, here's the ports, here's how it works. So I think that's the next level of interaction in that kind of B2C space.
That's exactly what's, I'm not going to say what's lacking, but this is exactly the kind of product or the kind of service or widget that is really important for end user businesses, right? If you, if you look at the businesses out there, there's a standard contact us page, and you go to a contact us page and you got a form to fill out or a phone number to call, or you click and you call it. Which phone do you want to call from? It's I'm going to say not a complex web of how do I get in touch with this organization, but now you just click a button, you can see, and it comes right, it feeds right through to the organization in their Teams, in their Teams client. Right.
Yeah. So they've got all the security and all the normal experience they want on the back end, and on the front end, the end customer sees it as ABC Health Clinic or XYZ Bank or whatever it may be, all Microsoft, all secure, encrypted, etc., etc. But you can brand up that front end experience for your customer.
And speaking of some of our friends down at the logos down there, Luware as an example, I've seen a demo where a bank, where you walk into almost a VR sort of experience bank on the website, and you've got a branch there, and you go, let me go over to lending as an example, and I've got 4 people sitting in lending, and I can click to chat, click to talk, click to video call with them.
Yeah, that's it. That's all Azure Communication Services based. So Luware are one of the most advanced people in that space, doing some really cool stuff. As you say, you can do basic video calls, but you can go right up to 3D AR VR experiences. It's really neat.
I'm going to plug our next show really quick. April 14th, Luware is going to do a demo. We'll talk about that a little later, but that's pretty exciting for us. Luware
are fun. So we've done a live install with them on a webinar, and they did an end-to-end install in I think it was sub 25 minutes. It's really cool stuff. That'll be fun.
That's exciting. I should have shared the picture with Luware when we met with Luware in London. That's I've floated it out on LinkedIn a couple of times, but literally we were all dressed in blue sweaters, and it was not planned. But everyone had
except for me.
Well, you can't tell because you took the picture, but it was hilarious because everyone had a blue sweater on in the meeting, and I'm sitting in there going, in a white conference room, and everyone's got blue sweaters. I thought it was hilarious. So we had to take a picture to commemorate the event. New devices. This was really exciting. All the new devices. We had Josh on the show, I think either last week or a couple of weeks before, talking about the Jabra, Panicast, and all the different applications or devices that are coming out. What was your favorite from the show?
Yeah, well, I think the most impactful was the fact that Cisco have their devices certified now. So Cisco devices on the Microsoft keynote stage. So literally Microsoft was showing Cisco devices, and then Cisco invited Microsoft back to their keynote to kind of share that experience. So, I mean, if you've been in our industry for a while, those were two vendors that were not best of friends, that were highly competitive. And it kind of speaks to where the market is at the moment, that Cisco kind of, want to be in the devices game for Teams customers, because there's a whole bunch of customers going to Teams, and they might well love Cisco devices, and so they've got that option now. So that was a really big one.
Yeah, and I
Well,
mean, I
ahead,
was going to say, from previous experience, again, I can't tell you how many times I've seen businesses make a decision based on their either their product inventory that already exists or their vendor relationship. So in the case of Cisco, that's absolutely right. It
Yeah,
opens the door for great partnerships.
Cisco are really good at vendor relationship, particularly in the high touch big accounts. They do a good job of getting that team, and often the network or facilities type team own the physical hardware, and then somebody else owns the platform. So we saw this for years, where it would be, it'd be Cisco Call Manager or HCS for the voice, and then it would be us for the meetings, and there's this kind of clash. So it's nice to see them playing nice, and it's something their customers have been demanding, both sides of the fence for years. So it's exciting times. Great to see Cisco kind of come to the table and play nice, and vice versa with Microsoft, because the customers that want both can now have both.
Right. Yep.
I just want to call out, Tom, that was a very, very good tightrope walk you did when I asked for your favorite, and you're like, the most impactful. So as not to upset anyone.
I got to walk the fine line of working with all the different vendors, but I can't really say Cisco's my favorite.
Well done, Tom. Well done. Okay, let's move on just a little bit, because we did spend some time on Copilot, so I don't know that we need to spend any more time on Copilot. But there was we did talk about the bat phones, the hotlines, super important to us. But here's one that wasn't in the list just yet, that has been, I think, as of 4.2, we saw an update come out from Microsoft that allowed the end user now to change the location of their information. We have actually a relationship with the person at Microsoft that runs this program, but the end user can now just update their information with prompted validated addresses, which I thought was really cool. So instead of someone typing in and then determining if they tested or not, is this my right address, Microsoft's going to prompt you in the interface the address it thinks you're at, and you're going to confirm and you're going to complete.
Yeah, it's a really nice step forward. I mean, this is a really, really important one, literally a regulatory requirement. And you guys, obviously, you're more local to the market than I am in terms of customers doing it. I see it with my enterprise customers, but you seriously need to have this in play, and it just makes it a lot slicker for the end user. Like you say, they're going to get prompted with, based on geolocation, IP addressing, this is what we think you're at, which makes it, let's be honest, much more likely the user will then either accept it or edit it, because users get way too many pop-ups. So yeah, nice improvement in user experience there.
Yeah, and go ahead, Brandon.
I was going to say, my feedback to our Microsoft contact was, I mean, this could not have been better timing. I think, Garcia, you and I have been on, 6 or 7. Like, this was the kind of the what I'd call the deal breaker, was this 911 limitation, and we were even scrambling to maybe look at third-party partnerships, and then Microsoft comes in and drops this feature. I think it was early this week or last week, and complete game changer. I mean, it solves all of the customer concerns from a U.S. regulatory perspective, and all the testing I've done, it is spot on.
Yeah,
it's good to hear. Yeah,
I was gonna say, if you're listening out there and you're an organization that is looking at Microsoft Teams and you were concerned about compliance, this change enables your remote users using Microsoft Teams to be compliant, and that allows your organization to be compliant, 911 compliant now in the US. And the way that it's delivered to you could be delivered to you via Teams phone, or it could be delivered to you over your existing PBX. We'll talk about that in just a second, but it's a huge feature for us, because we live this every day. And this is kind of that two-dimensional. We're way over here in the space that we live in and work in every day, right? But I come here and it's like, give me some basics. 911 is one of those basics, right? Just updating now. And to us, it was like, oh wow, we've got to put a product together that's addressing this for some of the existing customers and the scenarios that we experience on a daily basis. So let's do this. Brandon, why don't you talk about this right here? So we're dropping a new product today. This is essentially Microsoft Teams IPPBX integration with 911. And basically, well, Brandon, why don't you tell the story? Because you're the one that talks to the technical side of the customers every day, all day. So What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, so just a reference point. You can't. I'm on the wrong kind of web camera right now, but you can see obviously Rick's wearing a Path to Team shirt. That's obviously a for our regular viewers. That's an announcement we made about a month ago, where G12 we're looking to kind of give people looking to get to Teams Phone. And as I mentioned earlier, they I think they've made that decision, but they just don't know how to go from on-prem to native Teams, and they're just not sure if they're willing to take that huge step in their mind. So what we've done is we've come up with a product that allows the customer or the client to maintain their on-prem PBX, and they don't even necessarily have to give G12 PSTN control, right? That's just in this diagram. You can keep your existing PSTN. What we do is, as G12, we come in and we integrate the native Teams phone system into your PBX. So now when a call comes into your PBX, you can control the routing behavior of that phone call. You can simul ring your PBX desk phone and the native Teams phone. You could obviously do a hunt group. You can kind of do whatever you want. And what that allows the company or the enterprise or whoever it is to do is to start kind of consuming the native Teams environment in a less impactful way, kind of learn Teams phone, and it gives them that incremental step into a fully native Teams environment. And
Yeah, it's a super low pressure way to get in there. You're not saying go rip out the PBX, cut everybody over, and off you go. You can say, look, let's test the waters with this team or this country or this department or whatever it is. See how they feel about it. And I presume if and when the time's right, you guys can then cut them over to full native if they want to.
Yeah, exactly. And again, if we have control of the PSTN, we can do it seamlessly. We can do it with really no downtime at all. We can just, it's a couple magical buttons we press and it flips them over, and all at the same time providing that 911 Ray Bomb, Carrie's Law compliant solution, whether it's native from a customer PBX standpoint or native from the Teams phone system. So we've got this solution pretty tightly bundled, and obviously, maybe demo it one day.
Yeah, it is one of those things that's kind of held up some organizations from moving forward, right? It's like this whole rip and replace is a scary thing for some of these organizations, right? And so you look at this and you go, you still need your Teams licenses, so you're working in native Teams, and you get to kind of roll it out to the organization where you have remote users that maybe were on some sort of uh, PBX application where they were remote in some way, shape, or form that probably didn't work really well. And now you can roll out a Teams environment and know that it's compliant, and roll out a Teams environment knowing that my next step is figuring out how to get to full Teams phone, right? So it is, let the users acclimate, they're compliant, so I feel safe. It's secure because it's Microsoft infrastructure. And now let's just go ahead and plan a migration at some point. So it is, that's what we look at, is that's why we have this whole Path to Teams sort of branding. And it is because some organizations are going to find it difficult to go all in and do a massive swap. It's a disruption in potential business, right? So now if you can have your users acclimated, know that you're compliant. We're just this is, again, is a simple update by Microsoft. When I say simple, no disrespect to anyone worked long and hard to make this happen. It's a really good change for us, because we look at this and we go, wow, now we can make everyone compliant by just adopting Microsoft Teams. Now you can address your compliant concerns as well, right? Your compliance concerns.
Well, and I think even, and I'm not going to I'm going to try not to put words in anyone's mouth, but I think we've even heard from Microsoft, customer, success managers or people trying to convert people to the Teams phone system, that even they are coming up into some barriers around. And we have all of these clients on, say, E5 licenses. They have the Teams phone system, but they just don't know how, or don't necessarily want to give up their on-prem Cisco, Mitel, Avaya, whatever it is. So, I think this product plays really well to even, educating maybe these Microsoft guys to say, hey, there's other ways to maybe encourage that conversion rate.
Yeah, we used to do this all the time back in the day with the with Link and Skype for Business. We'd start off with kind of forking between the two systems, and everybody gets comfortable with it, and before you know it, the desk phones are gathering dust, and you're like, oh well, can I sweep that away now and just go full soft phone? And people would. So yeah, I think, and you're right, there's literally millions and millions of seats of E5 out there where the Teams phone isn't active yet. So you're happy with your PBX, start here, get a mobile voice from anywhere experience, get a work from home optimized and compliant experience, and if and when the time's right for you, Mr. Customer, you can get rid of that PBX cost if you want to.
I've got a question. It's a bit off topic here now, but I want to go back a little bit. Tom, you've been doing this a long time. You're the Link and Skype for Business and stuff like that. With is it proliferation of Teams now, with the success that Teams is now seeing, and I don't believe that Skype for Business, as an example, was anywhere near as popular as Teams is.
Oh no,
today.
Fraction.
Right. So is it like not vindication, but like, yes, like this is it. It is hit, and I'm smack dab in the middle of it.
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting because obviously the pandemic kind of accelerated everybody's mindset around this through necessity, right? So that really changed the market massively. We've jumped years ahead of where we were. What I think's cool about Teams is it's UCaaS, right? So previously, when I did Skype Business and Link, you had to be a certain level of customer to invest in the infrastructure, the servers, the licensing, the pro services. So there was a cap where, unless you were, a few thousand seats or you really wanted to invest, you probably weren't getting access to that technology. Whereas now what I love about Teams is, I mean, take my company, for example, we just, brought on our 6th person. From day one, I put down a credit card and I had the same tech stack as most banks have. Like it's crazy that you can buy per seat this level of, not just collab, the whole stack. But yeah, that's what's really exciting for me, is it becomes accessible. And also you're constantly getting new innovations. We just talked about the AI, you're not buying a product and you're stuck with it. Like it's a constantly evolving so that the value keeps coming.
That's one of the biggest takeaways right now for Teams, is that the evolution of it keeps improving and improving and improving, right? And there's so many people working on making sure that this is the best phone system for organizations, or communications platform for organizations out there. So it doesn't matter if you start off with just a small portion of the stack and say, I still need 10 physical phones in a small office or something like that. I can start off that way, but it can expand into, now I've got click to call from my website, so organizations can call me directly and be right on my screen, right from my website. So I can attract leads that way, or sales opportunities, or support opportunities, and it's all available to you instantly.
Yeah, and it's probably your last project. So if you think about the PBX world or the server world, you would do something, and 3 years later you have to do something else. Like if you're going on to Microsoft 365, that you've done the project, then you just inherit all these benefits. And as you rightly said, you kind of adopt to them at your own pace. It might start off with 10 phones in one physical office because that's how you work. Then you've got another office pops up. Well, guess what? Just pop some more phones up. There's not another PBX to install. Then you've got someone that needs to work remote. Well, guess what? They can work remote because it's Teams. So you can inherit all those benefits.
If you took a guess, and this is, I kind of put out my thoughts all the time on what I think this is going to be for the business world, for the enterprise and small business world. If you had to put a percentage on it, and you're well informed, but if you just took a stab at what percentage of market do you think that Teams phone, let's say in 7 years, because we like to put numbers like 5 to 7 years, something like that. Let's say in 7 years, what would you say the percent of organizations out there would be Teams phone versus any other platform out there?
Gosh, 7 years is a long way out. Imagine thinking
it is
where we are now. I mean, I've seen various projections from analysts that are anywhere between 20 and 30% in the next 2 to 3 years. So, like, if I look at the enterprises I work with, most of them are Microsoft 365. So like that it's already in the box for them in a sense. So it's more like why not Teams than why Teams. Now you've got a long investment cycle and a long tail on all those PBX investments. So it doesn't happen overnight. But as people change, they're 100% going to cloud something, right? So they're going to go cloud something, be it carrier hosted, be it Zoom, be it WebEx, be it Teams. So then it kind of becomes a battle between those different cloud players. But I think Microsoft has a really nice kind of benefit of being inside the box and inside the stack. So yeah, I think it's going to be definitely high double digits for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was going to say 7 years is like that's 2 lifetimes in technology, or maybe
We can
more
pare it down
now.
to 5. We
You know,
can
like
pare it down to 5 years.
as Tom was responding, I was just imagining in my mind what AI might be capable of doing at that point, where it's, maybe it's we're not even meeting anymore. Maybe it's I'm doing my job and AI.
Your AI meets my AI, and it tells us what to do, basically.
Exactly. Like I know that sounds funny, but you just don't know. 7 years, it could be interesting.
But
how we
it's
communicate.
funny, isn't it, Brandon? Because it's like it's immeasurably long time in some ways, and yet I've been at this game for 10, 11, 12 years with presence and like OCS and LCS, and here we are. Like the market's only just realised that like everybody understands what messaging is now. So things
And
go fast.
I'm excited about 911.
Yeah.
Right. I'm excited about 911.
Yeah. Again, mass market still on-prem PBX, so we've got a lot of things to do. But we'll have to do points in the show over the next few years and see where we are.
Yeah, I'll just leave. I'll leave it at. Yeah, I'll leave it at. I'll just leave it at my AI looks forward to meeting your AI someday.
Oh, that's great. That's great. All right, let's. The numbers are staggering. I just thought I'd like to show this just because, just if you're an organization out there listening and you're considering Microsoft Teams Phone, you're like, is it right for me? It's right for you. I mean, you certainly have to look at how you deploy, but certainly if you look at the numbers here, 280 million active users in Microsoft Teams. Great. Let's talk about the phone. Well, the phone was, I think 15 million was the announcement a while back, 5 million users added over the course of the last 12 months. And then now I think that's another 5 that we're stacking on it. It's probably closer to 20 million.
Yeah, that's where it's headed towards. 15 is the official number, but it was 5 for 2022. It was another 5 in the last 12 months from Enterprise Connect, so 12 months back from that, which is kind of so that's another quarter if you think about it like that. So yeah, it's racking up. As you say, like there's not. Give it a couple of years ago, there was is this feature there? Is that feature there? I think we're over that now. Like for 90% of use cases, it's going to have the features you need.
Yep, exactly. And Brandon, you can talk about some of the features that it needs, but one of the things that's helping the growth patterns is the simple, and I say simple, and I use it in Microsoft terms because it is complex when you think about how do I connect PST into Microsoft Teams. If I'm going to as a cloud communications provider like G12, it's like, here, I've got a platform and I've got, the dial tone and I package it all up and here you go. Right. So simple in that way. Microsoft does the same thing with their calling plans. But there is this way to go about it, whether it's direct routing, whether it's mobile, whether it's, the calling plans from Microsoft or now Operator Connect. Right. So they're working on making it simple to onboard via automated platforms like what we have in Operator Connect now, where we can basically, onboard phone numbers, new phone numbers, and help port numbers into the Microsoft Teams ecosystem so that you can assign them to your users in a really slick platform that makes it easy for people to kind of go, oh, that's what I have to do. We can migrate, and this is what it looks like. And when you show a platform to organizations, Microsoft Teams is already like, they look at it and they go, we want Teams. Everyone that comes to us or everyone that we speak with, Teams is on the roadmap, or Teams is in the process of being implemented, or they've already implemented Teams and they just haven't added the phone just yet, but they're like, okay, we're going to add the phone. So it's becoming easier and easier to say yes to Teams. So back to your point, it's why not Teams versus do I use Teams or not as the phone system? So, well, I don't know that we need to dig into this Forrester report. This is the 3rd or 4th week in a row that I've left that on there. And it's just to say that, if you migrate to Microsoft Teams Phone, you're saving a ton of money. What I'd rather do is instead of doing that, spend some more time, or another minute here, chat with Tom while we talk about, let's say, Luware for next week. Tom, Luware, you guys are a big fan. They've got a cool video on Empowering.Cloud to show people.
They've been a great supporter of ours from day one. I worked with them previously when I was at Modality as well. So they've got a really good contact center solution. Teams tightly integrated, all the APIs. And what I like about them is they have full contact center. They've also got various lighter options. So if you just want some basic routing, they've got that too with their enterprise routing products. But yeah, there's 2 videos on Empowering.Cloud. One where we did an install. I ran up a fresh tenant, and I love that they've got the balls to do a live install on a webinar. There was like 100 odd people on the webinar, and they installed live, and we made a phone call. So that's a testament to kind of their confidence. But also more recently, I did a video with Ollie where he just went through custom use cases, pricing, how it all works. So 20-minute video. Ollie's great as a UK salesperson there, and just real open kind of a conversation about where it fits, where it doesn't fit, what you should do, how it works. So yeah, nice option for a team certified contact center for sure.
Yeah, that's exciting. That's exciting. We're going to have them on. So April 14th, we're going to have them on, and they're going to do, Ollie and John will do a demo for us. We'll walk through the cool, and like you said, the breakdown of the different call queues with advanced routing and things like that Microsoft doesn't have today. So they play in that space really well, not just your full end contact center end user or agent. So with that, we're at the top of the hour. Brandon, you want to sign us off?
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna just make one last plug for the Comms V Next coming up at the end of April. You know, if you guys are interested in just sitting down and having Teams chats, you know, there's going to be a bunch of us, Tom being one of them, at Comms V Next. I don't know if you have that slide handy.
Yeah, so it's a real gathering of the people in the community there. There's some great MVPs in the US who pull that together. All the key vendors are there, so if you want to get a feel for the ecosystem and all the different vendors, and there's a whole bunch of people speaking. But I mean, more importantly than just the speaking, it's the networking. You know, the breakfast, the dinners, the bars, like that. You'll get to meet people that will become, you know, relationships in this space. So yeah, if you can get there, it's one of the shows I would strongly recommend. Very, very community focused
and pretty inexpensive as well. Compared to it's
a MVP kind of job. It's not a commercial conference. It's MVPs putting this together for the love. So yeah, thanks to all the sponsors who support it. It's a good event.
That's exciting. Tom, thank you very much for the time you've spent with us on a Friday evening with a glass of wine and 2 kids running around. I certainly appreciate it.
Always nice to catch up with you guys. Appreciate the support again. Thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Very good. Well, listen, everyone, have a good afternoon. Thank you so much. We'll catch you next time on Everything Teams Phone Live. Thanks for joining. We'll see everyone later.